Hi guys, it's Allie with Stuck on You Crochet, and I am back today to teach you the cluster V stitch. So this stitch is featured in block 7 of the Stitchwork Scarf. So if you are following along with the scarf, then we're working off of our blocks 1 through 6 that we've already accomplished. But if you're here just to figure out like what is the cluster V stitch, I want to see somebody doing it live in action, then this tutorial will work for you too. So I mentioned in block 6 that if you were striping that you would have a lot of ends. So you can see here I have quite a few ends that I will need to go and weave in, but I am notorious for leaving my ends till the very end. So apologies for all the scraps that are over here, but I'll make sure that you can see what I'm doing in block 7 as we continue. So at the end of block 6, we finished off our moss stitch, and you can see I've got my hook here ready to go. I'm going to use this blue color today so that it's highly contrasting. But if you are working the pattern according to the Stitchwork Scarf and you're trying to stick with the color scheme as written, then you're going to work with color B. So we're going to switch to our new color on this last stitch, just like we've done before. And I'll chain one, and then I'm going to turn this over. My scarf is getting much longer, so it's harder to flip it around. All right, so in our very first row, we're just going to work 29 single crochet stitches. And when you're working these, some of those stitches are going to be placed in the top of a single crochet stitch, and some of them are going to be placed in a chain, because with our moss stitch, we were working single crochets and then a chain. So work 29 single crochet stitches across the top, and that will be our base for the cluster V stitch. When you reach the end of row 1, we're now going to chain 2 and turn things over, and we're ready to start our cluster V stitches in this next row. So this chain 2 here that we just did in row 2, that is going to count as a double crochet stitch in this block. This block will be a little bit different, or I'm sorry, this row will be a little bit different than the other rows in this block, because we're going to work this first row of cluster V stitches into the single crochet stitches, and then as the rows build, we'll just be working them into themselves. So for this row, the chain 2 is going to count as a double crochet stitch. So now we're going to skip a stitch, so we'll skip this next stitch, and we're going to work a cluster V stitch into the next space. So a cluster V is 2 double crochet stitches together, and then a chain 1, and then 2 double crochet stitches together. So to do this, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the space, yarn over, and draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of those loops, yarn over, insert the hook into the space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So now you can see we have the beginnings of 2 double crochet stitches here, and then yarn over and draw through all 3 of those loops on the hook. So now we have that height of a double crochet stitch, but we've worked 2 of them together. Then you'll chain 1 and do the same thing into the same space. So you can see how that fans out a little bit. We have 2 double crochet stitches worked together on this side, a chain 1 in between, and then 2 double crochet stitches worked together on the other side. We're going to skip 2 stitches now, so we'll skip the next 2 stitch bases, and then we'll work another cluster V. Now same thing again, we'll skip 2 stitches and work that cluster V. So continue working like this all the way across the row, and you should end with 9 cluster V stitches. Now we're at the end of the row here and we have 2 stitch spaces left. So we're going to skip 1 and then just work a double crochet stitch into that final stitch space. So that will mirror that chain 2 that we started with that counted as a stitch over on the other side. To start row 3, we're going to chain 3 and then turn things over. And now we're going to work our cluster V stitches back across this row, but we're going to be working them into the chain 1 space that's between those double crochet together stitches. So it's right in the middle of the cluster V's from the prior row. So again, yarn over, insert your hook into this chain space, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert into the chain space and drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3, chain 1, and then repeat that on the other side. So these will start to stack on top of each other. So you'll have 9 cluster V stitches again in this row, and you can see how they will just start to build up. I'll do a couple here and then pause so you can see how they stack. Okay, so I worked across this row here, and like I was saying, you can see how they start to stack on top of each other. So with each row, you're just going to work a cluster V stitch into the middle of the one from the row prior. So now that we're at the end of row 3 here, we've finished our final cluster V stitch, and we're going to just work a double crochet stitch into that turning chain. And that will finish off the row for you. So you're going to repeat that same row 3 all the way up to row 10. So it'll be that same exact pattern, just chain 3, work those 9 cluster V stitches, and then work a double crochet into the top of the turning chain. So work that until you get to row 10, and then we'll come back and work row 11. Okay, when you get to the end of row 10, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're finished with our cluster V stitches at the end of row 10, but we are going to go ahead and get set up for block 8. So in block 8, we need 28 stitches across. So working across the top of row 10, you're going to evenly space 28 stitches across to get the stitch count correct. So this may not be exact, you know, we have the tops of stitches and then we have chains. So if you need to put a single crochet increase or a decrease somewhere in this block, then that's fine. Just make sure that by the end of this row that you have 28 stitches total across. Okay, so when you get to the end of row 11, you can snip your yarn because we'll be finished with this color. We're not going to need it in block 8. And then you can see I've just used a stitch marker to mark off my work here like I've done in blocks prior. So once you get to that point, then you're finished with block 7 and you are ready to move on to the next. So if you have any questions about the cluster V-stitch, or if you're having a hard time understanding the stitch, then feel free to reach out to me and let me know what's working or not working for you, and I will be back with block 8.